So when it comes to expanding numbers of people who are leading more inclusively in an organization, in addition to a couple things I mentioned already, from your view, Jennifer, what makes it challenging to scale inclusive leadership?
What makes it challenging? Well, I think a couple things. First of all, we have centered and located the work in a what is called a DEI team. It goes by various names, but
Mhm.
it's always been this weird tension, I think, between we want to make sure this is an organizational priority, and as such, a logical answer to that would be to have a dedicated team who are kind of the watchdogs, right? Or kind of the
Right.
subject matter experts, and bringing that thought leadership. And technically, I guess how it's supposed to work is they hold leaders accountable for their involvement. I mean, that's it, right? And then the leaders sort of grudgingly, they
Right.
check the box and they do as little as possible, and right, they are very passive. They're very kind of in the receiving stance of the requirements, if you will, and that sets up this energy that I don't think is where what we want.
Yeah.
As much as I am a fan, though, of having a dedicated,
Mhm.
resources and professionals. So I'm not saying I'm not a fan of that. It's just this tension. So the problem, I think, with how we've gone about it, I mean, there's many problems, I think, in hindsight, particularly over the last couple of years, and given what's happening now, I think we're all kind of wondering, like, ooh, did we work this strategy in the right way? Did we set
Mhm.
this up right? Because this backlash really, really hurts. Like, really
Yeah.
hurts. Like, did we have a part to play in how bad it is and how extreme it
Mhm.
is? And I know I'm kind of racking my brain and my heart around all the things that I've ever been taught, all the things that I've taught clients, all the things that I've really operated under, the assumptions, right? Anyway, so to answer your question, the centering of that, I think, has led to this passive participation. And this is why I wrote the How to Be an Inclusive Leader book with the model in it, which squarely puts the responsibility
Right.
with leaders and invites those leaders to
Right.
their own transformation, invites them to evolve, gives them a path that's non-judgmental, opens up that, possibility that you can be very knowledgeable about certain identities and not about others. And that
Yeah.
what I really want to bring into being is a safe place to learn. I also think it's become very fraught to experiment. And we as humans, we learn through experimentation. We change our behavior through small efforts that become bigger efforts. But if we kill the seedling
Right.
while it's trying to get its roots in the ground,
Right.
and we say, no, seedling, you're ugly. You don't matter. You're never going to be anything. And you're never going to understand
Yeah.
this. And by the way, you're not diverse, which is not a thing. Um, that is not bringing people along. So I think, unfortunately or fortunately, it's all sort of up to the history books. We have really, really had a tight focus on certain diversity dimensions, and
Mhm.
we've needed to, because those are
Right.
missing. Full stop. And we have somehow that strategy, and it makes sense, actually. It's very logical now looking at
Mhm.
it all, has left out a bunch of folks who identify in a certain way, but I would also argue have a lot of experience of exclusion, just in a different, defined differently. So I do think too that we have needed to walk and chew gum at the same time all these years of really, really being inclusive ourselves, of the contribution that everybody can make, and also the personal story and experience of inclusion and exclusion that most humans on this planet have had, uh, and yet has not really been identified
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
something that needed to be resourced, or something that could be a potential tool in somebody's toolbox in terms of leading
Mhm.
inclusively, like that sort of self-reflection. So, everyone has a diversity story. Even if your story that you're telling and the way that you enter this whole dialogue is through stories about your privileges,
Mhm.
that is still really, really powerful too, and I do it
Yeah.
all the time, and I'm trying to role model that all the time, because
Yeah.
clearly I might be LGBTQ, I might be female, cisgender female, my pronouns are she, her, in a very sort of cisgender male-dominated world, uh, but I'm also an insider in that world.
Mhm.
So how am I leveraging that? That is a conversation we have not been having. And I'm trying to have it wherever I can, because what I'm trying to do is really, really like broaden the tent and say, you're needed here. You belong here. You belong in this conversation. There's so much you can be doing. And you matter in this. And I think we need to kind of turn some attention to that.